thing. Obviously, Super Tournament 03 against Maru, but that's Maru. So I don't want to like overjudge how not there he is. Also, one thing I have to point out, they were talking about the cards, and well, hold on. Let's just introduce the players, and then I need to go on a little bit rant here.
All right, over here in the upper left, in the red from Korea, it is Classic. At times, one of the best Protoss players in the entire world. It's going to be interesting to see how he performs in this match. But up against him is his opponent, representing Canada, but currently residing in Korea. In the blue, our Zerg player, it is Scarlett. So,
right.
you know, going into this,
yes.
I mean, we got to just point this out, and this is probably going to be a theme basically we're going to have to bring up throughout the entire event, but you know, we've had a major change, a major update in StarCraft 2.
That's right, yeah.
And, you know, we're currently in the highest stakes StarCraft 2 tournament in the world.
Yeah, the patch is like a week old at this point officially.
Yeah.
So it is kind of new territory. I mean, the pros have had access to it for a while, but certainly we're going to be seeing some new strategies here.
It's going to be a different kind of cast for us. It's going to be one that's going to be a little bit more exploratory here, as we're going to see what new ideas are going to be at play.
Well, you want to talk about exploratory. That is a Forge, my friend.
Yeah.
It looks like we're going to see some cheese coming out of Classic here.
Yeah, gateway into Forge. Now, cannon rushes have always been a thing, especially in StarCraft 2, but let's see, you know, what exactly is going to be at play here.
Dude, I love this. Oh,
okay.
my God. Sneaking around the side.
Yeah, he's going to park the probe over here at what could be a third base in the future of this. Excuse me, no, goes around and actually gets behind that and puts the pylon just wedged up between the gas and that ledge. And it looks like this has moved through a blind spot for where Scarlett is. So Scarlett is going to be hit very hard here, and this game could be grinded to a halt very quickly.
Beautifully planned out. Now, Scarlett sees the Forge, so she knows something is going on. Does she cancel the hatchery? Does she let the hatchery finish? We're going to see here momentarily. Okay, it finishes, but with the double cannon already started, this hatchery, I don't think that she has much of a chance of keeping it alive.
You basically have two choices in a moment like this. It's either you're going to do everything in your power to try to save the hatchery, or you have to simply give up and try to steer the game into another direction.
Well, I think that that's what she's probably going to do here. She is making just a handful of lings, a couple queens, getting speed, re-expanding. You know, obviously this costs a lot for Protoss, but this is a good move. This is a great plan here from Classic, and he's going to take the early advantage in this game.
Yeah, we've got the hatchery already at half health. There is no way to reverse this. Obviously, the Protoss gives up something in order to try to get into a position like this, but I think Classic is going to have a pretty smooth game from here on out.
I think so. I think so. And, I mean, it's great planning that has taken place here from Classic. A great way to open game number one after sending his probe to block the natural hatchery, having that area that he went through, the blind spot. Fantastically done, and as he kills that hatchery, he's got to be feeling nice.
One thing to note here for Scarlett is she will be able to eliminate this cannon rush with basically no cost because of the angle that the pylon's at and the fact that the cannons can't actually cover the pylon that's powering it. I gotta say, obviously it's bad that she lost the hatchery, but this is probably the best bad situation you could be in post-cannon rush. The cannons are already unpowered, and you know, obviously the cannons will be wiped out shortly after that. But yeah, it's going to be at least a decent situation, all things considered, after Scarlett loses that hatchery.
Yeah, there's still plenty of play in the position, right? Like it's not like the game is completely over for Scarlett. Although I mean, if she was analyzing, she'd be like, "Yeah, I'm dead here." But here she plays on. So like,
games, like, well, I lost 2 lings there. Now I'm probably gonna lose.
But you know what? It's very clean, the follow-up here from Classic, right? He didn't even make a cannon. So he has this super well planned out. The first Oracle is popping, and I think he can just go into a pretty standard game here with Scarlett just kind of being behind.
Yeah, now one thing to notice, just to go big picture for a second, obviously pretty much every game Zerg wants to get 3 bases right away, but because of that cannon rush, it forced Scarlett into a bit of an uncomfortable spot. Her third base is square in the middle, or almost in the middle, I guess you could say, of the map, and that's going to be there's going to be crosshairs on that here from the Protoss' perspective.
Oh, for sure,
Especially from Classic. We know Classic is somebody who very much likes to win games with these window timings.
Yeah.
And so we want to watch this base very carefully and see what angles Classic may try to come in here and punish that. A lot of cannon rush games, they're basically setup plays. I mean, occasionally we see games that just end outright from a cannon rush, but usually what it is that you've already made a potentially paralyzing or crippling blow to the Zerg, and then the follow-up is going to be the push later on.
And this is the standard way to harass a faraway base, is to make some Adepts, to make some Oracles. Those are the most, it's like the best way to kill drones, the best way to run around the map very quickly. And you can see a lot of pressure going down. 5 drones have died. Classic getting on top of this Spore now. Obviously, the Queens have to come out and fight.
Yeah, and it looks like the Spore, okay, going to come in here and try to get some drones. A bit of a misplay there from Scarlett, basically sending the drones in a little bit earlier. I was about to say that, there wasn't that much value gain there with the few Adepts that came in, but between the Adepts getting the drones and then those Oracles picking off some drones, that's actually a pretty nice jab at Scarlett.
And including this third base that's already finished, like no probes there as of yet. Classic really has to be careful to make sure that this is well defended. There's a lot of Lings right there. The Oracles are going to come back. Looks like they have just enough energy that they probably can clear these out. But it's a beautiful game so far from Classic. Really amazingly planned.
So we've got the Warp Prism about to finish, and generally, for us viewers, that can telegraph the beginning of the push. We've got this synced up with 5 gateways that are about to be ready to warp in. And so, what we were talking about happening earlier on, it looks like we're finally going to be at that moment. We've got Sentries warping in now, and Immortal also on the way. +1 attack is finishing up. So I believe we're going to start to get to what could be the climax of this game.
I believe you're right about that. I mean, with the Immortals coming out, +1 attack is timed out perfectly here, just as this attack is going to hit. Classic is going to have that +1. And with the amount of sentries he has, let's see what type of damage he can get done with this.
Okay, big warp in coming in here now. He's decided to come in here at the lower left side. It's a bit of a smaller entrance point, as you can see over here. But, it's also easy to retreat down and avoid any interactions that you don't want to have. The first Corrosive Bile comes out, he backs up. Note the Immortal way in the back here to make sure it can't just be targeted as easily. We want to watch the Warp Prism here as well. If there's going to be a warping round here from Classic, it's possible Scarlett may try to dive with those Ravagers and pick that Warp Prism off.
Oh, that's for sure. He's spacing it very carefully. Slow Zealots being warped in to really tank a lot of the damage here. Keeping those Stalkers and Immortals alive. That's really the damage output that Classic has. And as he's picking off Roaches, Queens, Ravagers, all of that, Scarlett is in a tough place. She has very few units. There are more Roaches popping, but she's going to lose yet another hatchery, the second of the game here, before 8 minutes.
I don't know if there's going to be any way for Classic to lose this at this point in time. I mean, the sheer momentum of this push, the first hatchery goes down, drones are pulled. It's going to be a bit of a fight in this kind of narrow area down here, but it doesn't look like it's one that's going to be good for the Zerg. In fact, the Zerg fighting in more of a bottleneck position, allowing Classic to set up a pretty healthy arc where damage can be distributed very nicely here. I think this game's almost over, Artosis.
It is certainly over. Scarlett is about to GG here. There's just nothing left over. There you have it. Classic taking a dominating game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, from start to finish, it was a masterclass in the art of the cannon rush. Not to kill, but to set up for a push that the Zerg can't deal with. And we saw that Scarlett, I thought she handled the rush pretty well, all things considered. But then you have a third base that's just in an uncomfortable position. And that allows Classic to basically set up very nicely, get that push in there.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, we even saw in the final moments there that attempted targeting on the Immortal, that there was so much damage output from Protoss, even though everything going on that one Immortal couldn't kill it. And this is dire straits right now here for Scarlett. She's down 0-1 in this best of 3.
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in right now, and honestly, I'm not too surprised that Classic was able to take that. I felt like everyone is actually talking him down. If you look at the losses that he's had, it's against literally the best players in the world. So it's like he's getting tough matches and not winning them, which is okay. But I honestly think that he is one of the dark horses. I think he's going to make it through this bracket.
I think you could be right about that. And the only thing I'll push back on with that is I do think we had a lot of moments where Classic would be in what looked like a winning position, and then he would overextend. I felt like, especially in some of our GSL casts, we had many games where it's like, okay, he's got this, but he tried to push the envelope a little bit too much. But if we can see a slightly dialed back and perhaps more conservative Classic here, I think he's a very deadly force. Now, all things considered, let's not forget, look, that game did come with a blindsiding cannon rush. Scarlett did not see it. It was very sneaky. A very sneaky move, by Classic there. But, I mean, the reality is I don't think we're going to have another cannon rush like that in Game 2. And if we do, I don't think it would, look like what happened in Game 1.
No, that's something he's only going to be able to use a couple times throughout this tournament, if that, really. I mean, it's on the mainstream and everything, so it's hard to think that he's going to be able to pull that off multiple times. But you know what? Scarlett is such a strong player. Use a build like that. Pick up that quick victory, and that is totally going to be worth it.
It does seem like when it comes to cannon rushes, like you only get so many in a competitive environment. And obviously, look, this is like a 5-day event. It's a marathon.
Yeah.
This isn't like, what we've casted in the past at GSL where, you have just a few set of matches and you have all this time to prep. I mean, you really have to come in here with a massive toolkit of different ideas, strategies, cheeses, everything. And so Classic played that hand and got a win. Nicely done. What could we have coming in here into Game 2?
Well, truthfully, Tasteless, we can have anything from Classic. This is actually what I wanted to talk about at the beginning of the game, but we had a cannon rush, so I couldn't really do it.
Yeah.
When they were showing the player cards, where all the players rated each other, Classic was 74 in versatility. That might be the biggest rob I've ever seen on anything ever. And I haven't seen all the stats yet for everyone, but Classic is actually probably the most versatile Protoss in the history of StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
He has gone back and forth between very aggressive strategies, reactive macro strategies. He's been around literally forever and played every type of game. Whereas you look at some of these other Protosses, think of the other best Protosses ever. Zest. Yeah, he's timing attacks and macro. Stats, he's only defense. MC, the biggest attacker ever, right? Most Protosses are like that, whereas this is a versatile Protoss player. I would give him 100 on versatility, which tells me he can do anything against Scarlett in Game 2.
All right, guys, we're ready to go now into Game 2. We finished up Game 1 with a cannon rush and ultimately a very deadly push here from Classic, but I don't think we could be recreating that moving forward here. And so if we are going to be in a more standard game, can Classic still, hold his own here against Scarlett, who is, again, very solid and pretty much unshakable?
That's right. That's right. I mean, she's got so much experience at this point.
All right, in the bottom right, in the red, we have Classic.
Fantastic rush in game number 1. Great prep coming into the series.
And in the upper left, our Zerg player from Canada, she is Scarlett.
You do have to feel for Scarlett a little bit here, right? She didn't, whatever she had planned, we don't know. She didn't get to do anything that she wanted to do in that game.
It's a really good point. It's worth pointing out that all losses are not metabolized equally from the receiving end. You can have a loss where you actually are almost okay with it because you played so well and you see exactly the small mistake you did and you know where to adjust. But I mean, anybody who's ever experienced, a cheese like that where your head's in, 10 minutes from now in the game and, where am I going to take my 5th base and how am I going to have that endgame tech and suddenly, cannons materialize and start to kill your base. That is psychologically very punishing for a player.
Yeah, I would certainly say that. And, is she going to tilt from there? I mean,
I don't think so. I mean, nobody takes it that well, but yeah.
No, I think that she can kind of dial herself in here, put out her best games, because I mean it's Katowice, man. You only get a couple chances, and I'm sure that she is really looking forward to hopefully getting through to that group round.
So everything so far, is looking pretty normal, right? We've got the Nexus being taken. It's going to be a fast expand game here. And so there's not really any way either of these players can interact with each other early on. We do have the second hatchery forced to go to the 3rd base location, but honestly, at this level of play, that's not going to be too impactful.
No, certainly not. And I mean, this is as standard as it gets. We just kind of wait for that Cybernetics core to finish up. How many times have we said that, Tasteless?
Oh, yeah.
The only way to make this more exciting is have a Reaper go and damage the links.
But, going back to what we had mentioned earlier on, it is, worth pointing out, Classic kind of built his name off of having these incredible timing attacks, having moments where he would have that pressure. In a lot of games, we have players that put pressure on, and it almost does nothing.
Sure.
He would always get, maybe 5%, 10% more damage in there, get an extra drone kill, and then very cleanly come out and go for the kill. And that, there were periods where he was pretty much the guy when it came to Protoss, right? He was just an incredible player. Anybody who was a student of Protoss was also a student of Classic. But it did seem like post his military career, and by the way, just to be clear, all able-bodied Korean men do have to do about, I think it's 18 months now of military service in Korea. You can't make money during that time, so in other words, you can't pro game, or you can't stream and make money. It's so this is always something that impedes on the career of any Korean pro gamer. He's finished that, but since he's been back, it does seem like we've had a little bit of a sloppier Classic in some games.
But at the same time, I feel like he's done pretty darn well considering. Like, you remember that series against Zest. He had Zest dead, but you're right. He overextended a little bit. Zest was able to kill him. Zest was the best Protoss in the world at the time.
Sure.
So, like, I can't fault Classic coming right out of the military, having that happen. I mean, he made it into Super Tournament, which is already sick, but you go up against Maru. Maru's the best player in the world for my money, man.
Sure.
Like, so I'm not counting any of this stuff against him. I think that here at Katowice, we're going to see exactly what shape Classic truly is in.
One thing that I've always found interesting with Scarlett, and I've had a lot of pros tell me this when they talk about her play, is that she's like, when it comes to any new RTS game, she is like one of the best people to talk to.
Yes.
She's somebody whose mind kind of wraps around the game very quickly. And keep in mind, with this new patch, there's going to be a lot of new ideas introduced. Some are going to work, others are not. But I'm curious, now that we're in kind of a standard game, because, the last game that we had with the Cannon Rush, you could have told somebody that there was no new patch, they wouldn't be able to tell, right? We've seen we've seen that kind of victory before. But I want to see how this game's going to pan out with her and all the new tools at her disposal.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke about, no, Tasis, I can see the difference in creep spread rate. But I'm
you
not
can't
going to
tell
do
that? I thought you cast this game. What's going on?
But right now, it looks like everything is pretty standard so far. A Robo coming up for Classic, a couple of Oracles flying around, no real damage getting down yet. Immortals being made. I mean, I don't think we're just going to see another Immortal-based timing attack. That would actually... But I mean, if you're making an Immortal right here, maybe.
It feels like it will be an Immortal-based timing attack, but...
I think it will be a much faster one if that's what's going to occur.
Yeah. Let's see what happens here. I mean, the Nexus is...
what? Yeah, I think it is going to be. Look at that. 2 sentries coming out as well.
Yeah. Everything lines up to a push, and here comes that Warp Prism now. So, getting the Immortals out first, and then, the follow-up with the Warp Prism later. Which of course can be used to juggle those Immortals in and out. Okay, this is a big deal because a lot of these battles are won off the backs of a few extra Queenslings or Roaches.
Yeah.
And to have a hiccup, you really can't be more stunned than that.
No, for sure.
From the Oracle. So,
and that's right after losing like 7 drones to Adept Oracle.
Yeah.
Like this is pretty serious so far.
I mean, if you were going to do a case study on timing pushes and how to make them work, this is it.
Yeah.
Step by step. And so, we're about to have this push come in the mail. Note that, there's no probes being made. This third base is kind of a red herring from the Zerg's side, right? It's just there so that it looks like it's going to be more of an econ game, and we don't have any probes being made. This is actually a pretty strong push. Oh!
I love it, though. I love that he has that timing down just perfect, but still more lost mining time, and here comes that push now.
Yeah, the push is inbound, and a pretty comfortable angle here from Classic coming forward. So just one force field comes down. And you can see Classic being very patient. He really wants to try to make sure the force fields are going to count. We see so many other Protoss players that spam it out and try to get a good pairing. But a lot of patience there from Classic. Another warping round coming in. This Warp Prism is out of range, and that is going to be that. Classic handedly defeats Scarlett 2-0.
That was really beautiful from Classic. That push coming about a minute and a half faster than the push in the previous game. He didn't have +1, he didn't have the second Immortal, but it was a quicker push, and Scarlett just wasn't ready after the economic harassment.
Yeah, I mean, I love these players, but kind of a bummer of a series there. Not a lot of back and forth. Honestly, it was just Classic